And now to amaze us, Lino Silva from Farfetch.
Yada, yada, yada. Yeah? Is it? Yeah. All right. Hey, guys. I'd like to thank at first Pedro for opening the precedent of taking a picture. So I'm going to do the same. Because this is actually brilliant. Thank you. All right. Hi. My name is Lino. I'm here to talk to you about prototyping. And that's the fancy title as well I came up with. But first, a little bit about myself and why I'm here and why I've been invited to talk. This is me. I was born in Brazil about 30 years ago. I graduated from Minho University. Sorry, guys. And then I first had a 9-month internship in a company in Povo de Lanhoso called Placo. And then I moved straight to Farfetch, where I've been working since about 4.5 years now. I haven't been having a very complicated path or anything like that. It's just, I guess I've been lucky so far. A little bit of a tech background, what I've been working with. In Placo, I worked in the typical PHP stack, apart from Zool. Does anyone here know Zool? Great, only me. It's a weird language to develop Firefox plugins that you have at a time. It was a lot of fun. Then I moved to Farfetch, where I worked at the typical .NET stack. And about 1.5, 2 years in, I was given a challenge to open an R&D team at Farfetch. So these are a few languages I've been in contact with ever since. And it's actually been a lot of fun. Moving from the typical development cycles and sprints and plannings and the other slangs I bet you guys know are all over, we had to move to a more weird approach on how we develop software and how we prove concepts, which is prototyping. And this is why I'm here and why I'm here to talk to you about this. So, why do we need prototyping? Bear with me for a moment, and this is a very scientific graphic. Did a lot of research on it, and please assume that this is the rate at which business adopts changes, adopts new technologies, new processes, change in general. And then, taking in consideration that this is the rate at which technology advances, especially if we're talking about JavaScript advancements. Sorry, guys. Sorry, JavaScript guys. On top of that, we are developing stuff for our customers. And this is usually the rate at which their expectations go. And this eventually creates a big gap. Very reliable source as well. And it's actually that gap that usually dooms companies and renders them irrelevant. So, how do we actually go about doing prototyping and doing software prototyping? The biggest problem with software and with prototyping, it's not actually software. We're all engineers. We actually know how to code. We know how to build software. That's not actually the core problem. The problem is people, it's processes, is convincing everyone that that's the next thing that they need to build, and that's the really tricky part. But yeah, how do we do it? How do we actually go about prototyping? We get your tools out that in the beginning they may look like this. You use the tools you know, you use the tool you're comfortable with. After 2.5 years, this is actually what you end up with, which consists of every beta version, every black box trials you can manage to find. It's actually not about the prototyping itself, it's about transmitting a message and telling a story in what you're trying to build. So, how do you actually do it? You first get your mock server running, which actually doesn't matter what you pass to it, it's going to always return the same. Doesn't matter. You build your app, you build your prototype, you get it very nice, very clean. And then, it's the dreaded demo time. It's the time where you need to present what you've done to customers, to the streets, to investors, whatever it may be. And here I have an example from Understanding Comics, which is a very nice book. And you have little Timmy that brought to his show and tell session his robot. He loves his robot. And the teacher asks him, well, Timmy, what's so good about this robot? And he goes about, well, it has one of these things. It has this head that tilts back, and it folds, and wait, no, I did it wrong. Wait, it's a plane now. He's all proud of himself. He's really happy on his show and tell session, but no one actually understood what his product did. This is actually a very nicer example on how to do a demo. This kid had no idea what to bring to his show and tell. So his dad naturally helped him, as dads do. I have just a thing for you to show. He was all excited and said, well guys, these are my dad's tits. Don't be shy, everyone. Come and touch them. So everyone is naturally excited and say, wow, holy smokes, these are great boobs. And they share a moment, and it's really fun, and everyone actually had a pretty nice time, which, that's the point. The point is, this is actually how you should do a demo. Your demo has to have this immediate feedback, this loop that feeds the prototype itself and creates a much better process on how you create better applications, how you demo your products, how you convince people that what you're building is worth chasing after. Yeah, that's it. So I have here a few rules I tried to live by, and do bear in mind that these are merely suggestions, no way enforceable. First of all, who here is a software developer? Let's have a show of hands. All right, mostly everyone. All right, so as developers, we have a bit of a God's complex. We can build stuff, we build amazing stuff, but the sad truth is we are wrong most of the times. We have no idea what works unless we actually take it to the streets and take it to your mother, to people you know, not yourself, you're really biased in that way, and test stuff. You're always wrong, and you should always assume you are wrong when you build something. This is very important. A prototype is not an MVP. An MVP usually consists in the backbone of the code that's going to support your application for years to come. It's going to get you through seeding rounds, to funding rounds, to, I don't know, IPOs, I don't know, to bankruptcy, whatever. A prototype is actually about a little piece of feature you're trying to test, and it makes your software special. This is what a prototype is, which actually brings me to the next point. We're engineers, we love what we do, most of us, so we naturally love our code. We nurture it as the little baby that it is, but when prototyping, you have to be ready to throw it away from one day to the other. I mean, you have to really treat him like a piece of trash it is, because that doesn't mean you can afford to be sloppy, but when prototyping, you need to be ready to change and refactor your code as rapidly as you can. This is really what it is. I'm going to tell you guys this with an example, a very clear example. Imagine you developed an app, right? This app cures world hunger, in theory. As an Easter egg, it also cures cancer and a few other diseases. It's a feature, it's a nice feature to have. So you go to demo it, you show it to everyone goes like, wow, this is an amazing app, but does that button have to be green? So you naturally go home, hang yourself, it's fine. So in prototyping, you need to be sure that your demo is as beautiful as you can. Then you can say, well, I can't make it myself, I'm an engineer. I can make pretty stuff. Well, steal it, doesn't matter. You steal it, you go to the internet, take inspiration in other websites, and just make sure that whatever the client sees is what they will expect the product to be. Point taken? Really, just make sure that whatever appears on there is the final product. Aim to have something in the day. That's actually trickier than it seems. This is about you asking the right questions about your product and asking it in a very early stage and making sure that you really understand what you're building. I'm going to give you an example of one of the most famous examples of one-day prototyping. Does anyone know what this has been a prototype for? A mouse, yes, as well, which is not the first example of prototyping. This is actually one of the first examples. This is, does anyone here knows the Palm Pro? Oh, I'm old. All right, this is the grid pad. This is the first example of a tablet. It was the best piece of engineering at the time made by Palm, but no one actually used it because of its size. So with one meeting with his team, Jeff asked the co-founder of Palm, well, how big should it make it? And he said, well, let's try the shirt pocket. So he naturally carved a piece of wood the size of the shirt pocket, and story tells that you could see him walking around the company, just taking his wooden pen and checking for appointments and checking for contacts and trying to find contacts. And this is one of the first examples of how you could prototype a nice piece of software that actually launched in '96 and was really successful in one day. Keeping your feedback loop running. This is about you showing the prototype as early as you can to as many people as you can and getting that immediate feedback, just like the gentleman's bosoms. And making the feedback loop feed the prototype, and the prototype feeding, generating feedback, and making sure that you're always not assuming that you're right. Once again, referring to point one, you're wrong. We are all wrong. And this might not seem as immediate as it is, because as your solution appears, the problem changes. It's a nice sentence, and I know why I read them this way, but the thing is, when you start asking questions about what you're building, you realize that what you're trying to build in the first place wouldn't solve the problem. So you learn more about it. And I'm going to try to explain it in a very practical way, in a very practical example that we had. We were trying to, at one time, categorize comments that we had on Facebook, Twitter, and our Net Promoter Score. We ask our customers for feedback whenever they get an order and receive the product. So we at first tried to categorize them into positive or negative comments, because we wanted to know who to shoot and who to give champagne to. Right, so has anyone ever worked in categorizing problems in machine learning? Show of hands, one guy, 2, 3, 4, quite a few. So you know that to training, you need a fairly large data set. So naturally we started by hand categorizing comments. And these are fairly straightforward. This is a negative comment on the fit. This is a very good comment on the service. So we started categorizing away. Halfway through, we realized that some comments are neither positive or negative. They're meh. I expected this. This happened. Meh. So we had to add a new parameter, neutral comments as well. So we learned that the problem is not about positive or negative. There are three, actually. Then we stumbled across an actual more common than you might think review, which is it's good on one side, bad on the other. So you can't actually take an average of it and say, well, it's a minus and a plus, then it's a meh. That's not how it works. So we actually had to think of it as a problem of topic extraction plus associating a sentiment to each topic. And yeah, this actually evolved into a tool that we managed to demo, which featured a few other things as adding to wish list, adding to bag, and actually categorizing into negative or positive depending on the context. Yeah, it did that. It was a nice one. So as your solution starts to appear, your problem itself changes because you have no idea unless you start asking your questions as soon as you can. Apart from that, I've been working in a few other problems like natural language, in-store automation with microcontrollers, as well as virtual reality. And that's actually what I love to do. I like finding new ways to solve problems and to have faster ways to find solutions. And in the end, I think that's really what makes us better engineers. Thank you. So there are no questions.
Questions? A prototype question. No. No questions?
On there.
Hi, just wondering what type of tools do you use for making in the development prototypes and also the UI prototypes?
All right, that's a good question. As I've shown you, 2 years, I've been doing this for about 2.5 years, prototyping, and as time comes, you realize there are a set of tools that you use every day, so you start building kind of a bootstrap kit that you're immediately ready to deploy. So I have an express stack that deploys dummy APIs right off the bat, a dummy application in iOS that actually does exactly that as well. But most of the times, you don't need any of that. You just need a piece of paper or even static images and a little link hidden in the image that goes somewhere else. Most of the times, you really just need to make sure that you transmit the right message instead of using the right tools.
Over there, one more. Wait. Come on.
Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Lino. I was just wondering, in terms of the prototyping and the rest of the development team, how do you structure that at Farfetch? Do you do prototyping for all new features, or how do you go about doing that in terms of
It's a good question
flow?
as well. Actually, they're not exactly linked. Every team does its own prototyping as well. This is actually a team dedicated just to prototyping, but each team does that on its own. So it's more of a crazy ideas department. Let's call it that.
No, wait a second. Oh.
There was one right in the middle.
Before he became angry.
In the subject of comment classification, review classification, NLP is really a resource-intensive and complex subject. So, and there are a lot of big companies working on it. So, why are you working in that specifically instead of applying technology of others?
Sorry, I didn't get that, and I didn't get the punchline.
Why do R&D in that subject when there are a lot of competitors from Google, Facebook, which reads texts people send all day? So
That's a good point. We weren't actually doing research in natural language processing per se. We were actually figuring out how useful it would be in terms of the company. We weren't actually doing research in terms of natural language parsing and understanding.
So the lab does a lot of R&D in new technologies like virtual reality to apply to more applied research for Farfetch.
Precisely, yeah.
Right.
Anyone else? Over there?
Hi. Yeah, I know you use Agile to develop some of your in your teams. What I want to ask you is, in prototyping, mostly on research, do you think it's the best way to keep on things going?
I think there are some aspects of Agile that are applicable, but what we have been using is a bastardized version of Kanban, which pretty much translates to we do what we need to do. Whichever comes first, that's the one we start doing it. We set a time to do it, and we do it. Good question, thank you.
Over there?
Hi. Just to be clear, so your team is only developers?
Actually, kind of.
Okay.
We have product owners and we have agile coaches, but yeah, it's mostly developers.
Why don't you include UX in your prototyping?
We actually have a UX innovations team that work closely with us. That's a good question. They don't exactly fit in our team. First of all, they're based in London, and second of all, they actually do UX prototyping as well, and they work closely with us to get to a further stage in prototyping sometimes.
Can I ask another question? Yeah.
No. One
Not the
question
boss.
only per person. Of course.
Just how do you get feedback?
How do we get feedback?
Yeah.
Right. So we go to the streets pretty much, and we show them around the office. The office has about 500 people, so it's not that difficult to go around and have a lot of feedback in a very short amount of time.
Thank you.
Hello, Lino. Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, when you first got to Farfetch as a .NET developer, what kind of work were you doing?
First, for the few things I did, first was a Zoom tool for a product page. Then I worked on revamping the listing page, having an asynchronous module to do filtering and sorting and everything. I did a lot of projects, but mostly I worked on the Farfetch.com website and its front end.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No?
Nah, he's just stretching.
Outlier. No? Well then, thank you, Lino.